May 1945. Files burn in steel cabinets. Trains roll south under blackout hoods. A general without a battlefield moves between safe houses. The last custodian of weapons Germany promised would change a war already lost. His name is Hans Kammler, engineer, bureaucrat, SS leader, and in the smoke of a collapsing Reich, he steps off the historical record. No body, no arrest photo, only competing stories, and a signature that appears on orders days before Germany surrenders, and then never again. Hans Friedrich Karl Franz Kammler did not win power with speeches, he built it. A trained civil engineer, he moved into the SS's Economic and Administrative Main Office, the WVHA, and took control of Amtsgruppe C, the construction arm that poured the concrete of the regime. That meant barracks, armaments plants, and, most infamously, the expansion of camps like Auschwitz and Majdanek, where his office signed plans, reviewed drawings, and inspected sites to increase throughput with brutal efficiency. Kammler earned protection by delivering results. He cut through ministries, moved materials, and aligned private firms to SS objectives. Within a few years, he was SS Brigadeführer, operating across military, industrial, and party channels with unusual freedom. In a system that rewarded speed over scruple, Kammler's talent was turning ideology into infrastructure. By late 1943, Allied bombers were tearing open factory roofs. The answer, in the eyes of Hitler and the SS, was to move the war beneath the earth. Kammler was given the job. He relocated critical programs into mountains and mines, most notoriously Mittelwerk in the Harz, fed by the Mittelwerk Dora subcamp, and converted the abandoned Kohnstein tunnels into a labyrinth of assembly lines for the V-2 rocket. Productivity rose, the human cost was catastrophic. Oversight now ran through him. He reported to Himmler and Albert Speer, controlled labor and logistics, and expanded his reach through the Jägerstab, the fighter staff, coordinating dispersed aircraft production as bombs rained down. By autumn 1944, Kammler's portfolio touched almost every wonder weapon, V-1, V-2, and the Me-262 jet. Hitler praised him as one of the few who could still deliver miracles. In January 1945, Hitler named Kammler plenipotentiary general for jet aircraft, effectively vaulting him over rivals inside the Luftwaffe. He coordinated the last jet programs, the relocation of key staff, and the spiriting away of documents as Allied lines advanced. To Speer, he was the most dangerous kind of loyalist, efficient, ambitious, and perfectly willing to use the chaos to bargain for his survival. This wasn't the arc of a mere functionary. It was a consolidation of technical power at the end of the world. One man brokering tunnels, labor, and science in a race to keep programs alive long enough to trade them. April 1945. The Reich collapses city by city. Kammler shifts headquarters to Munich and directs the evacuation of the FIF-2 workforce toward Bavaria and Austria. Telegrams still move in his name to Leitmeritz and Mittelwerk. At the same time, he manages transfers of top rocket personnel. Werner von Braun, Walter Dornberger, whose expertise the Soviets and Americans can both measure in megatons of future value. On April 22nd, at Oberammergau, he meets with the veterans of Peenemünde. Witnesses remember him as calm, courteous, and calculating, a man not surrendering, but choosing where to surrender. 4 days later, contact drops to a murmur. By April 26th, his communications go dark. Then a last ripple. May 7th, 1945. 2 days before the official capitulation. A message bearing his signature orders files destroyed and units evacuated. After that, silence. When the dust settled, the stories multiplied. One account placed Kammler near Prague on May 9th, instructing his driver to leave him before he committed suicide. Another had him shot by his own men. None produced a body, a dog tag, or a grave. What the stories did produce was closure, useful to courts overwhelmed by missing names and to authorities eager to move on. Yet in intelligence archives, a different contour appears. Notes and correspondence suggesting US custody in May or June 1945, at the very moment Operation Paperclip began harvesting scientists and files. If true, declaring Kammler dead would not be a discovery. It would be a decision. The post-war paper trail is a thicket of certainties that never quite touch the ground. Allied investigators knew his signature, his authority, his proximity to weapons and camps. They searched, filed requests, and chased rumors. German courts later accepted affidavits declaring his death in Bohemia without a body, closing the legal book even as the historical one remained open. Researchers decades later have argued that he may have surrendered to US forces and been quietly interrogated. His knowledge of underground facilities, jet projects, and V-weapons too valuable to waste in a trial dock. Skeptics counter that no fingerprint card, no interview transcript, no mugshot has surfaced. Between the plausible and the provable lies the Cold War's favorite shroud: secrecy. Strip away the cloak and dagger, and the record still indicts. Kammler's rise began with concrete and schedules, camp grids aligned to railheads, crematoria scaled to meet capacity, labor treated as a consumable input. It ended in tunnels, where rockets rolled out of rock chambers while prisoners died by the tens of thousands. The Sonderwege of German technology, the jets, the guided missiles, passed through spaces he carved and ran. That is the ledger that survives him. And yet Kammler's story is not just one of destruction and manipulation. It is the tale of how science and warfare, driven by ideology, shaped the very world that emerged from the ashes of the Reich. In the crucible of war, the rockets he helped develop transformed into the backbone of space exploration and nuclear capabilities. His vision of the future, once marked by violence and conquest, was repurposed for progress. As the Cold War began, the technology Kammler helped refine played a critical role in the race for the stars. A paradoxical inheritance from a man whose hands were stained with the blood of millions. If he did bargain for his life, he bargained with what he had built: process, access, knowledge, the map of where the machines and their makers had been hidden, and how to restart them somewhere safer. If he died in a field, he died believing those things could still save him. Either way, the past we live with, the rockets that became missiles, that became launch vehicles, owes a chapter to the system he mastered. History usually punishes the loudest men. Kammler was not loud. He was useful. Useful men leave lighter footprints. They travel on orders and burn their archives on the way out. What remains are absences, a gap in a chain of custody, a telegram dated May 7th, a court ruling that settles law but not truth. He built structures meant to outlast bombers. He built a disappearance that outlasted a regime. In the end, there are two stories. In one, an SS general dies by his own hand as the world he helped build collapses. In the other, he walks through a guarded door and becomes information, filed, questioned, and quietly erased. We do not know which door closed behind him. We only know what he left in the rooms he built. But years later, a third possibility emerged. In 2014, the son of OSS officer Donald Richardson claimed his father personally interrogated Hans Kammler after the war, after the disappearance. The man declared dead may have been alive, in custody, carrying blueprints, knowledge, and leverage. According to the son, Kammler's secrets helped seed the Cold War arms race. And then, 2 years later, he died again, this time in quiet captivity. If that story is true, Kammler didn't just vanish. He was hidden, protected, and erased. A ghost, not of myth, but of policy. What do you believe? Was Kammler a casualty of war or a silent architect of what came after? Let us know in the comments. And if you want more untold stories like this, subscribe, share this video, and hit the bell so you never miss a chapter of hidden history.